Hey, Serene fam, and welcome back to another one of our chit chats. Okay, can we take a moment to celebrate women? Okay, because we are in March. This is Women's History Month. And honestly, I haven't really tapped into all of that, but I feel like this year I definitely will. Not only because it is so amazing to be a woman, but because there's so much that we truly just don't know about what women have created over the years. So this chit chat is going to be about womanhood, okay? And this is going to be released on International Women's Day. How amazing is that, right? I was thinking about what it means to be a woman, in my opinion, and I was just like, two words that always pop into my head are strength and beauty. And I feel like those things are always associated to basically all of the women that I've met in my life. Let's start with strength, right? We know that women are strong, and it may not be in the sense that you may see as strength or whatever, but we are continuously doing things and thriving and, rising under pressure and doing all the things possible to actually be our best selves. And it shows throughout history, it shows throughout our everyday lives, whether you were raised by a single mother, whether you have a bunch of women around you, a bunch of female friends. And I feel like they're basically all so strong, and it may not be the typical strength that everybody associates with the word, but women are always and have always been strong mentally, physically, emotionally. They just inspire me. And I honestly could not imagine being anything other than a woman, because it's just like, yeah, we go through struggles and everything. Yeah, history continuously has put us down and everything, but I wouldn't choose anything else. And the other word, beauty, is what I think of when I think of a woman, right? And I say this because there are so many, and I mean so many beautiful women out here, like countless, okay? Anybody out here can just name a bunch of women that are beautiful from the top of their heads, right? But if you ask them about a man, it's gonna take a little time. Not to compare anything. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But for real though, I feel like women are beautiful, women are strong, women are empowering, women are always, striving and breaking the barriers that have been set in place for us. And with that said, I want to ask you what you see or what you associate with the word womanhood. What exactly pops into your head when you think about you being a woman, or your mother, or your grandmother, or whomever it is that you have around you that have inspired you, that have motivated you, that have raised you? What is it that you think of instantly that you connect to womanhood? Because I feel like there are so many things throughout life that can determine womanhood in a sense, but those two words definitely hit home for me because I have been through so much throughout my life. And I know other women that have been through so much throughout their lives that have continued to progress, continued to strive, continued regardless of what it is that life has thrown their way. And earlier today, I actually went to the doctor and, doing my checkups and everything. And I was thinking about how last year I experienced something so traumatic that I personally haven't been to the doctor doing my checkups like I usually would. And even though I'm not ready to talk about what I personally experienced, it was a health issue. But I was thinking about that and how being a woman is constantly being scared. It's constantly fearing whether it's your health or your well being. Um, and I was thinking about that going to the doctor, just preparing, I guess, for the podcast or whatnot. And I was like, it's crazy that being a woman, you have so many things that are against you, And your health plays such a massive factor into all of that. And anything can happen at any point in time that just affects you so much, right? What I experienced last year was, like I said, something health related. And mind you, this was straight after my Valentine's event that I attended with some of my girlfriends, and I had the time of my life, okay? It was so fun connecting with a bunch of girls. We had a sleepover. It was a time for sure. But right after that, I had a traumatic experience where I was in the emergency room. And all of that was just because I am a woman. And it was just an experience where I was like, I was so scared. I didn't know what to um do. When you're actually experiencing some health type of related issue, you just go on the internet, you find information, and then it's just like you go through a spiral of, oh my gosh, it could be this, it could be that, it could be anything, right? And your brain starts to think the worst, and so you just think the worst possible thoughts. And that was me last year. I felt so alone, even though I wasn't alone. And the crazy thing is, from what I understood and the questions that I was asking my doctor at the time, this was completely normal. It was completely normal for me to experience what I was going through. And again, I didn't know about this because being a woman, I feel like there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of things that are put in place to try to belittle us. And that was an issue related to my health that I feel like if I had been educated on the issue, I would have felt a little bit better within the moment when I was experiencing all those negative thoughts. But again, we are constantly put down, whether it's about our menstrual cycles, about our physical bodies and the changes that it experiences on a regular basis. Like 1 month you're bloated, the next month you're feeling great, and our menstrual cycle is constantly changing and it's constantly affecting us, and it's constantly something that we're dealing with that we honestly are never that we honestly don't ever get used to. Like, no matter how many periods I've had, I will never, ever be used to the experience of a period. It's always changing. The experience is always different. No 2 months are alike. And it's crazy. Like, what in the world? But I remember going through my puberty phase, and I thought the symptoms that I was experiencing throughout my period were normal, right? But turns out they're not. It's not normal for you to be in excruciating pain when you're on your cycle. And I had to learn this over time from going to different doctors and trying to find the best person for me to actually listen to me and what my needs were. Because a lot of times when you go to the doctor, they belittle you, they tell you things that you don't want to hear, they don't listen to you. Again, experience of a woman. And it took a while for me to actually find a doctor that listened to my needs and listened to my, I guess, requirements for my health specifically. Because, yes, you can take pills, you can take all these things to help with your menstrual cycle, but eventually you're going to have to rely on those things. And eventually you're going to have to need more for you to get the same effect. And I did not want to experience that personally. So I wanted some natural ways of dealing with those things and those symptoms that I was experiencing. And I finally found a doctor who actually listened to me and my needs and told me what to do. If you guys want a specific podcast on that, I can share with you my exact, I guess, routine throughout the month, things that I do to really help reduce the pain that I experienced during my cycle that have been life changing. Because at the end of the day, I'm not joking when I would say that I experienced all the symptoms. I'm talking diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, headache, throbbing ankles, back pain, um, eh, eh, all of them, okay? Sometimes all of them at once. And I would always feel guilty about experiencing those things and having to call off work, which again shouldn't be a thing. We shouldn't have to experience such excruciating pain and have to show up for work and have to show up in ways that we are forced to. I eventually learned how to deal with my body specifically, and I would love to share that with you guys. So maybe I'll do a podcast on that for y'all, for any women out here who are experiencing some of the same symptoms that I mentioned. But what's crazy is that every single month we go through these emotions and we go through these excruciating experiences and we still show up. We still wake up and try the next day. And again, this is why I associate the word strong to womanhood, because we're constantly being strong within society, whether it's men beating us down, our bodies, just not reacting the way that it should, and all the things in nature that really affect us. And I know that society is used to this one concept of what a woman should be, which is, the housewife that stays at home, takes care of the household and everything. But I want to point out the simple fact that those are ideas that were put onto us that are very outdated. And we have society nowadays to really show us that. We have women who are in fields that have never been in such fields before. We have women surpassing men in their own fields, right? And so that concept of a woman being the housemaker and all of those things, great. A woman can be those things, but she can also be more than that. And I feel like society needs to get used to the idea that women are more than just that. For me specifically, it's a concept that I never really was used to, simply because I always wanted more than just, oh, I'm the stay-at-home mother and those things. I always wanted more. And if a woman wants that, there's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, each and every single person's experience is going to be different, and each and every single person's goal is going to be different. But society makes it seem like we have to be just this, as opposed to a woman being all the things possible. A woman can be a housemaker, but she can also be the breadwinner in the household. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And if it messes up your manhood, then maybe you have some issue with yourself as a human being. But what I also find very interesting about that whole concept is that even though there are women out here who are doing all the things possible to fit within that category of what society has forced us into, they're constantly judged for those things, whether they're doing them right, how they can be doing more, how, they're always comparing women to women for some reason. And I hate that. I always have and I always will, because you don't see that. You don't see the competition that is associated with manhood and their accomplishments and the ways that they should do things. Like, you're not gonna hear nothing about a man changing a car tire and that they didn't do it properly and that the next person can, like, no, you're not gonna hear those things. But somehow a woman is gonna be told, oh, she can't cook properly, oh, she's not the housemaker, oh, she's a hoe, and oh, she sleeps with all of these men, these things, and all the ways that, society have constantly judged us and constantly put us down. And one thing that I want to point out is that you can sit here and say a woman's a hoe, whatever, right? But at the end of the day, for her to be that, for her to sleep around with all of these men, at the end of the day, the men have to actually want to sleep with her. All right? So what does that really tell you? Okay. For real, that's something that always bothered me, how women can never be enough for society. They can never do something and it be good enough, right? And there's also that concept of a woman being compared to a man, which shouldn't be a thing. At the end of the day, we're completely different human beings. But you'll find that they compare motherhood to fatherhood, which are two completely different concepts. And if a woman decides at the end of the day that she no longer wants to be a mother, as men have done for generations, she's ultimately shamed and thrown under the bus. And I'm just like, what in the world? Can we go and find all of the men that are deadbeats and have the same idea associated with them? Is that a thing at all? Or do we just find ways that we can put women down every single moment? But this is why I associate the word strong to women specifically, because regardless of what society has constantly put down on us, we still do good. Unlike the other gender, we don't have excuses that are constantly created for us to give us these leeways to get away with things as society continue to do with men. I mean, we have a list of things that are going on right now where people are constantly excusing these behaviors that are absolutely horrendous, right? But had it been a woman, which we saw last year, she would have been under the bus, right? But regardless, if you're watching this and you're a woman, I want to give you a beautiful shout out for being yourself and trying to be better and showing up for yourself in some way, shape, or form. For this month, Women's History Month, March, the International Women's Day, I want you to take some time to celebrate yourself, to celebrate all the days that you have shown up for yourself. So far, you've survived 100% of your bad days. And if that's not motivating enough, we're gonna go ahead and go through this list of accomplishments of women throughout history. Okay, there are gonna be facts that you probably didn't even know, because there are a lot of them that I personally didn't know. So hopefully this is going to motivate you in some way, shape, or form. And I want you to take some time, whether it's today, this month, for you to just show up for yourself and celebrate you being you. And with that said, let's bring up the list of accomplishments of women in history. So, first one is going to be Amelia Earhart, who was the first woman to fly solo nonstop across the Atlantic. This was in 1932, almost 100 years. I don't know how long she did it for, but that's long, okay? That is very, very long. And personally, I have never heard of this woman before, but it's just like, that's crazy. That is insane. Now we're gonna continue. We have Elizabeth Blackwell, who's the first US woman to earn a medical degree in 1849. Okay? That's insane. Like what? 1849. That doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but it also seems like it was long ago. That was like about 200 years ish. Crazy. Then we have New Zealand as the first country to grant women the right to vote in 1893. Can you imagine? Can you imagine people making laws that constantly affect you, your well-being, your children, and somehow you don't have the right to vote? Excuse me? And this brings to mind how men have constantly governed every country for years and years and years, and they've waged war. This is currently happening. And somehow we don't see that some changes need to happen. Like with last year, people were talking about how Kamala was going to potentially cause a war just because she's a woman, this and that. When have women ever encouraged war? When that has, like, that's never crossed a woman's mind. I guarantee you that. They might have had some thoughts about, getting revenge on somebody or some, but a war that affects children and other women and people's well-being and, excuse me, no. And look at us right now, okay? It is not a woman that caused that. Okay, let's continue. We have Madeleine Albright, who became the first female Secretary of State. This was in 1997. 1997. I was born in 1998. Use that for some imagination. And then we're going to continue with this one, where Hillary Clinton became the first female presidential nominee of a major party. This was in 2016. 2016, 10 years ago. 10 years ago was the first time a woman was even thought of as being okay to become president in the United States. And then following that, we have Kamala Harris, who became the first female, the first Black, and the first South Asian vice president in U.S. history. This was in 2021, 5 years ago. 5 years ago. 5 years ago. I just want to make an emphasis on that. That 5 years ago is when we decided that women could potentially help the women that have constantly shown up for us. I don't understand the idea behind a woman not being able to rule other than misogyny. That's pretty much it. Like, society literally tries to make us believe that we are less than. A society that was created by men, societal standards are constantly favoring men, and it's insane. You can look at history, it's absolutely insane. Let's continue. And then, of course, we have one of the most influential, which is Rosa Parks, right? After her refusal to give up her seat on that bus, she became one of the most pivotal women in the American civil rights movement. This list goes on and on and on, and you can look it up yourself online. There are several different facts online about women and what they've accomplished. Some things you honestly wouldn't have thought of, some things that will really surprise you, some things you would think right now were invented by men that honestly weren't. And it just shows you another way that society continuously try to make us think that we are less than by just shoving these things down our throat to make us think that we never did anything. We never invented anything. We never had a voice. We never should have had a voice in the first place. And the reality is we are human beings that are being affected constantly by society. So yes, we deserve a voice. We deserve a right, and we deserve to be treated better, regardless of what it is that you tell yourself at the end of the day. A woman having rights is not going to ultimately affect you as a man. I guarantee you that. And it's crazy that we live in a time period where things are still affecting us so much. Like Roe versus Wade, when that was just like, what in the world? Why is it that we feel the need to govern somebody's body? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for a lot of people to sit here and say that, yeah, you don't have the right to go ahead and choose what to do with your pregnancy at the end of the day. Mind you, you're the person who's going to be affected by that pregnancy. They're not going to show up to your house and take care of that baby for you. Them Christians that constantly shove down your throat that God tells you not to kill a baby that's not even born, a baby that's not even a baby, they're not going to show up to your house and take care of that child for you. They're not giving you resources or anything like that. They're just spewing things at you to make you feel like a terrible human being, which is mind blowing considering the fact that God himself or herself doesn't want to spew hate, but somehow Christians find it in themselves to spew hate onto people who choose to do what's right for them. I recently was watching a documentary, and it was about the Roe versus Wade being reversed. And it was basically about women and their experiences at this specific clinic. And you could see driving to the clinic how there were a bunch of people out there trying to make others change their minds about their decisions of whether they should keep a baby or not. They were protesting about all the ways that they can, keep the baby. Why do you want to do this? You're a terrible human being. God doesn't want you to do this. And there were so many different people that showed up and just spewed all types of nonsense at the people that are trying to do what's best for them. At the end of the day, a woman's body shouldn't be ruled by anyone other than her own self. Okay, I could talk about this all day. Maybe we'll do another podcast about this. Maybe. But regardless, at the end of the day, women should have their own autonomy over their own bodies. Simple as that. We don't try to govern men's bodies and tell them what to do with their penises. Hello? You try to do that, they will look at you like you're absolutely losing your mind. Okay? So why is it that it's not the same way for us? But regardless, the day that you're watching this, March 8th, maybe you're watching this a little bit later, but March 8th is International Women's Day. So I'm going to find a way to celebrate myself. I don't know how, but I will find a way to celebrate myself and celebrate my womanhood and celebrate my history as well. And I hope that you do the same throughout this month. I hope you take some time to celebrate yourself as a woman and look up some random facts. You will be very surprised about the things that were invented by women out here that you would have never thought. I listed a few things that resonated with me, but I'm sure there are plenty more that will resonate with you and surprise you as well. So take some time throughout this month and really celebrate women, whether it's you celebrating yourself, celebrating your mother, your sister, your aunt, your grandmother, whomever it is that you have around to show some love to. Make sure you help remind them that they're wonderful, that they're strong, that they're loved, that they're beautiful, because being a woman is all of those things. Is being feminine, is being masculine, is being yourself a woman. Do not let society try to tell you what a woman is. You know within your own damn self, okay? Shout out to you, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye.